Andrea Jenkyns.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In May last year, as a PPS, I believe I was the first person on the payroll to resign to fight for Brexit. I had deep concerns with how Brexit was being handled, and I felt compelled to resign to fight for the Brexit that I believed in, the Brexit that my constituents and our country voted for. I've been the first to step down, but I was not the last. On both sides of the Brexit debate, we have seen talented, committed and hard-working colleagues resigning due to numerous concerns. Our reasons for standing down may vary, but one thing we all have in common is our belief that this deal is a bad deal for our country. Be they remain or leave, I respect all of these colleagues who bravely stood by their convictions and made the principled decision to fight for what they believe in. But the fight is not yet over. The Prime Minister speaks of a deal which will unite our country, a goal that no doubt we all desire. But the division we have seen is a result of the Prime Minister's own making. A desire to get a deal at any cost, prolonging Project Fear, and her decision to postpone last month's withdrawal agreement vote was a mistake and has only led to more division at a time when our country should be uniting behind the democratic decision to leave the EU. On the 23rd of June 2016, the question was clear. Should the United Kingdom remain a member of the European Union or leave the European Union? The British people spoke and decided overwhelmingly to leave. Mr. Speaker, well, I think a million more people is quite a big clue, actually. Right, Mr. Speaker, it was never supposed to be this way. At the referendum, there was no third option. The choice was either leave or remain. It did not mention a half-in, half-out, or worst of both worlds choice for our country's future. The referendum question said nothing about giving the EU £39 billion of taxpayers' money and getting nothing in return. The referendum question said nothing about a continued role for the European Court of Justice after 2019. And the referendum question said nothing about an Irish backstop and restricting our ability to sign new trade deals. Mr. Speaker, this deal is a sellout to those who voted to leave. And it is therefore impossible for this House to unite around this deal, and it is impossible for our country to unite around a bad deal. At the referendum 2 years ago, the British people spoke and our objective was clear. As elected members of Parliament, we were asked and tasked with delivering Brexit. Some members thought that the British people would deliver a different result and that they would vote Remain in the referendum, but they didn't. And this is a problem. We have some members across the House who do not accept the result of the referendum, and they are using every opportunity to thwart the will of the British people. Mr. Speaker, it is a sad period in our great Parliament's history when MPs try to overturn the democratic mandate. This is completely unacceptable. After all, it was Parliament that gave the British people the opportunity to have the referendum in the first place. Our great British parliamentary model has been a beacon that has been used as a template in parliamentary democracies across the globe for centuries. Let us not insult our greatest institution or forget that we were elected by the British electorate. We are all Democrats, so let us respect the result. Our British people have spoken, and it's time for us now to deliver. Our people decided to take back control, and they said we should leave. They're still British citizens. Yeah. This was a vote not dictated by fear, but dictated by hope. Hope of a different tomorrow and a new path. Hope of a new system not restricted by the EU's institutions. And hope that once again our people will feel that they have a true stake in our country's future. The chance of a global Britain was promised, but this has now been broken. Mr. Speaker, we must leave, and we need a clean Brexit and trade in under WTO rules if necessary. The US and China sell billions of pounds of exports each year to the EU. Using WTO rules, the UK can do the same if necessary. As the EU's largest trading partner, and with a deficit of £95 billion in trading goods, we should have been negotiating from a position of strength. But the Prime Minister's determination to get a deal at any cost gave the EU the upper hand. The Prime Minister showed her hand too soon, and now the EU has called her bluff. I say it is time that we put the ball firmly in our court and we take the upper hand in these negotiations. The EU fears us leaving on WTO terms, and it will give Britain the competitive advantage if we do. So let us fully embrace a clean Brexit. I have no doubt that the EU will come back running to us in the 11th hour, but besides it being a good negotiating tool, leaving on WTO is not something we should fear. I'm happy to give way to my honourable
friend for giving way. She's talking about the potential advantages for us leaving onto WTO rules. And can she explain why, if WTO rules are just fine for us trading with our largest trading partner, why it's so necessary that we're able to do trade deals on our own terms with other much smaller economies?
Thank you for my honourable friend for his question. Well, I believe in a global Britain, as the Prime Minister said in her statement several times, and it is important with smaller nations, larger nations, that Britain is free to chart our own path in the world and, again, forge new trade deals with whoever. Yes, happy to give.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. Now, I know she won't be aware, but in evidence today to the Scottish Affairs Committee, Ryan Scatterty of Thistle Seafoods in the north east of Scotland, representing seafood processors, says that the growing market for their industry is places like Australia. Now, they currently do trade on WTO rules, as he confirmed today with committee. So if he can do that with Australia, surely they can do that with the EU.
Thank you to my honourable friend. I mean, I was in Kenya with some of our colleagues back in July, and we trade with them. They sell us lots of flowers, which has a short shelf life. They trade with us on WTO rules at the moment, and so we have no problems there. So again, I agree with my honourable friend. I'll give way to my honourable friend, then we'll carry on.
My honourable friend agree that we would desire a free trade agreement between the United Kingdom and the European Union?
As I said earlier in my speech, we've seen the way the EU negotiate. Look how they did with Greece, etc. They usually come back in the 11th hour. It would be great to have a deal with the EU, but I do not agree with having a bad deal. And as the Prime Minister, her own mantra has been no deal's better than a bad deal, then I would rather leave on WTO. But I thank you, my friend. Now, I need to make some way. Thank you. Right. So I say it's time that we put the ball firmly in our court and now take the upper hand in these negotiations. The EU fear us leaving on WTO terms, as it will give Britain the competitive advantage, so let us fully embrace a clean Brexit. Now, leaving on WTO is not something we should fear. There has been some concern over engineering firms being disproportionately affected by a clean WTO Brexit. However, the heads of firms like Dyson, JCB, Northern Ireland's Wrightbus support Brexit. Car companies can withstand 10% tariff on sales into the EU and 4.5% tariffs on components from the EU, since they have benefited from a 15% depreciation in sterling. Border checks on the components from the EU will be unnecessary, counterproductive for EU exporters and illegal under WTO rules, which prohibit unnecessary checks. A better deal was available and still is available. The Brexit deal was never only a choice between the Prime Minister's deal and reverting to WTO rules. And if that is a choice, then I say let's go on WTO rules. This place is often divided by its very nature, but one thing that does unite this place is our belief that the British people are remarkable and can succeed no matter the obstacle. Our great history shows that we can overcome any hurdle and we always triumph. This deal is a submission and the British people should never accept a bad deal. This deal is Remain masquerading as Leave, and it's time entrenched Leave members of this place started believing in Britain and respecting the result of the referendum. Instead of fear, we need to see forward planning, a vision for the future, a future away from the EU that the whole country can get behind. I'm hugely optimistic about our country's future, and there may be difficult times ahead, but we need a leader who can take this great country out into the world and start trading freely around the globe, and a deal that simply does not allow us to do this. Now, in her Lancaster House speech, the Prime Minister said, A global Britain must be free to strike trade agreements with countries from outside the EU too. The great prize for this country, the opportunity ahead, is to use this moment to build a truly global Britain, a country that reaches out to old friends and new allies alike, a great global trading nation and one of the firmest advocates for free trade than anywhere in the world. Mr. Speaker, this was a vision for Brexit that many of us had. But the Prime Minister's deal will not allow this to happen. I therefore urge colleagues across the House to reject the Prime Minister's deal. Let us stand up for democracy, let us restore faith in our electorate, and let us now deliver on our promises to our great British public. Thank you.